Hello and welcome back to the weekly gaming news show. I'm your host Sony, and I'd like to start off by saying everything that you're seeing on the channel right now is weird, and I fully understand that. We're trying to branch things out a lot more with our previous stuff that was previously on another website known as Audio Boom, which we'll stop using soon. I'm not entirely sure when, but we will stop using that at some point. But we are trying to move all that stuff over to the YouTube channel. Now, there will be playlists where we'll be having our new content and our old content, but for the most part, we're going to be trying to just branch out everything so the channel is not just full with gaming news show. Second, in terms of news, January is not exactly the best month for news, since publishers or developers are usually still working on their games. Nobody usually releases games or releases anything about games, but we have got some interesting news about a game coming into closed beta very soon. But on to the news. First off, we're going to be talking about Lawbreakers not doing so well. Now, if you know what Lawbreakers is, we've talked about it in the past. If not, Lawbreakers is essentially the next Quake, or at least it tried to be. It's a first-person skill-based shooter, which has, bases its fundamental mechanics off of anti-gravity. And on launch, the game didn't do well. It had a lot of launch problems, and then following its launch, it never really recovered from it, and the player numbers have been dwindling. And Cliff Bleszinski, has finally spoken out on this, saying that it didn't meet expectations, which is more than obvious by now. But he has also been saying things like, that he made a loss. Him, his company, and also Nexon, the publisher, the only publisher who would allow him to fuel this idea, to fund this. But even Nexon expected better from the launch, better from the player numbers, and better in general. Essentially, they made quite a big loss on Lawbreakers, and from what they've said in an interview, it doesn't seem like it's going to survive to see a year 2. Maybe it'll do well for year 1, but honestly, everybody's expecting Boss Key Productions, which is Cliff Bleszinski's development company, to kind of cut their losses with Lawbreakers, keep a skeleton crew there to kind of work on the game and make sure things are working correctly, while they also work on another game, which honestly I think they should, unless they are dedicated to ironing out every single issue with Lawbreakers, making it so much more user-friendly, especially to new users, and also bringing that price down. A lot of people complained, for the most part, that the game isn't worth $30. It's about £25 in the UK, but a lot of the initial thing that people said is that I'm not buying this if people don't like it. I'm not wasting my $30, which is fair, completely fair. But it's sad to see such a well-made game go down the drain like this. Moving on to Nintendo doing what Nintendo does best. I'd like to first off apologize for how confused I'm gonna seem in this part. My script says very little about this because I wrote this down at 3 AM when they announced it last night. I'm recording this on Thursday. They announced this Thursday morning at around 3 AM. I don't know what I was doing up that late, but when they announced it, oh boy, I'm not sure what it is. Essentially, okay, let's finally get to the point. Nintendo Labo has been announced, and we've not exactly gotten all the details on it yet, but we will try to keep you updated. But wow, essentially Nintendo have out-Nintendo'd themselves, which in sense is the fact that they've taken something so simple, made it so accessible, especially for gaming, even though people didn't know it was possible. They've taken cardboard, okay, stay with me, and somehow fashioned equipment for the Nintendo Switch. Now, stay with me, hear me out for a second. It sounds ridiculous, I know. Nintendo have always had a thing for motion controls, and it was inevitable that they were going to put it into the Nintendo Switch. They decided to push motion controls further, maybe to sell another first-party game down the line, or to help with the other already first or second-party games that are already out there. You can now buy cardboard cutouts, or at least print out so you can cut them out yourself, and assemble a fishing rod, this kind of exoskeleton thing which controls an in-game mech, a little like steering wheel for a car or motorcycle. I'm still very confused by the whole concept, but it looks really, I don't know. They look like they really worked hard on this, and it looks really well done as well. And you can always tell, okay, with everything first party with Nintendo, besides from the Nintendo Wii U era, everything outside of that era of gaming, Nintendo have always put 110% into the thought and the execution of their products. They've put a hell of a lot of thought into this. It looks like they put even more with the execution. Now, hopefully, Nintendo remember how to run a company, which they seem to forget a lot, and they market this correctly. The first trailer at least looks spectacular. I'm hyped for this, and I don't own a Switch. I'd love one, but I think I'm gonna buy one and a bunch of this cardboard, or Labos, sorry. But if they don't sell this or produce it correctly, like the Amiibo issue that they had, or the classic console issue, they're gonna run out of stock very quickly. Because this is big. Nintendo seem to forget sometimes that they are a huge company. Whenever they do anything game-changing or revolutionary, especially for the company and their platforms, they forget that millions upon millions of people adore them for it and will keep watching. But I don't know, this whole Labo thing is still a confusing concept to me, but I'm so excited to see where this is going to go and what is gonna follow from this, because it's Nintendo. If they want to make a good game or a good platform, they'll do it. I'm kinda glad that I got that out of my system, and I'm sorry I went on for a lot longer than I anticipated. But oh boy, Nintendo really do know how to get me excited for video games again. Last on the list is Sea of Thieves. Now, we've spoken a little bit on Sea of Thieves in the past, with a few things here and there, especially how the game will run and what the game's progression system will be like. But today, I'm happy to kind of announce that they're going into closed beta, or they're going to have one. It's going to start on January 24th, which is next Wednesday, and ends on January 29th. But sadly, you need to pre-order the game, and I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure if you can still pre-order and get into the beta. I think there was a kind of refresh period so they could get all the beta codes ready. But it is in fact closed beta. You do need to pre-order the game. And the closer we get to this game launching, the more people ask me, am I genuinely excited for this game from how I talk about it? I am. I'm not excited enough to pre-order it. I'm always wary on pre-orders. I'm very against them, if anything. But I don't know. This game is very interesting, and it's one of those games that if the community is toxic, the game will be toxic. You will have no fun, and the developers will have an even harder time managing the community. But if the game launches well, I see no reason not to get the game. I've recently upgraded my operating system just in case I need to use the Windows Store to buy it, which if so, I'm more than happy to do, as long as they don't force me to do anything awkward. I'd much prefer to use the Steam platform to buy my games. The Windows platform is so awkward and weird. I hope I don't have to, but I do hope that this game is good. Sadly, we've got no releases coming soon. Again, January. Everybody's either developing their game or thinking about developing a game, and nobody really likes to share their secrets behind the door. But if you enjoyed this episode, stay tuned for next week. We've got a lot more coming up, especially with video games. Anyway, I've been Sony, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.